This is patient 77771111, prostate only. This is the case of a 62-year-old man with Gleason 3 plus 4 adenocarcinoma involving one of 12 cores, with 40% of that core involved. The patient has T1C for a clinical stage, and his PSA is 9.3. So my plan here is to take him to 81 gray in 45 fractions to the prostate. I'm not specifically aiming at the seminal vesicles, but I'm going to treat the base of each seminal vesicle to full dose. So I'm just adding a couple volumes here. I'm going to add a PTV 8100, and I'm going to add a CTV, which will just be our prostate and 1 centimeter of seminal vesicles. So I will enlarge this a little bit so I can see the prostate better. Click on my CTV. I'm actually going to make this even a little larger. I adjust the windowing so that I can see the prostate well. This patient had a TURP, so you can see there's a bit of a TURP defect here extending into the prostate gland, even back to this area. So that makes it a little tricky. So let's start by just kind of identifying the biggest slice where the prostate's the most prominent. And I'm going to start right here and just start by outlining the prostate. I use the pencil tool here, but I use clicking instead of free drawing because I think it's a little more stable of a system. So one thing I want to do here that I forgot to do, which is turn off, the dosimetrist has already entered the rectum and bladder contours. I'm going to turn those off because I don't want those to influence my prostate contours. We're going to keep going inferior here. You can see the levator ani muscles on either side, and I'm basically drawing out to those muscles as my lateral prostate extent. The prostate will get less distinct as we come inferior here. And I'll show you how we're going to identify the bottom of the prostate. So we'll keep coming down. We do not do urethrogram at the time of our simulation. If you had done that, you would draw your CTV to 5 millimeters above your contrast column. But we don't do that. So the patient has a little calcification here, which we can use as an internal fiducial for cone beam CT. Prostate's becoming less distinct. Rectum is becoming less distinct down here. I usually like to draw in this field because then I can see what my rectum's doing for when it becomes less distinct. And as you can see here, I do have this tail here on this slice I just drew, so I need to fix that a little bit because I don't think that's really the prostate. But real hard to tell at this point. The rectum definitely has a curvature here, but I just don't think it's that much. There's still probably a little more prostate right here. And then, so here's the penile bulb. Dosimetry has already drawn this in. I just want to make sure I agree with it. Probably doesn't look exactly like this, and I'll redraw it for you just so you can see. Oh, actually, that was pretty close. So I think the penile bulb looks kind of like this. It's this area, and how to find it is you follow the penis in until you get to this. So down here it's more linear in this area, but as we go up you can see it forms a bulb. And I think that's the penile bulb. And so I want to draw so that my PTV doesn't come down into my penile bulb. So I think we have a few more slices we want to enter here. And I think that's as far down as I'm going to go. We'll continue on with our prostate volumes and work our way superior now. And you know, I think we have to include all of this prostate here around this urethral defect. Same thing on this slice. As anterior, it does seem to join there. Right in this area, it seems like that tissue joins. I think I missed a little bit of this posterior extent here. So we'll just make some tiny changes here. I like the static brush, so I'm going to change this, and then I can make a little straighter edge across the bottom. And now this defect seems to come apart a little bit, and I'm not really sure what the right answer is for contouring this, but I think I'm going to do something like this. To make sure we encompass all of that tissue, I think this is still probably prostate with a little bit of seminal vesicle that I'm going to include. This is for sure seminal vesicle down here, but there's still a little thickening in the posterior bladder wall. And then I think down here we've got mainly seminal vesicle. So I think if we measure here, we've probably gone 1 centimeter up the seminal vesicle. That's about right. So I'm going to stop drawing right there and create my PTV. So click on PTV 8100, right click, go to margin for structure, and we'll make our margin from our CTV that we just drew. I'm going to add a 7 millimeter margin all around the prostate, but it's not going to be symmetrical. I'm going to add 3 millimeters posterior. When you go into 81 gray, you really can't afford to have too much posterior margin here. But that actually looks pretty good. We've got these, I like these calcifications in the prostate because I think they act as internal fiducials, and when we do the daily cone beam CT, we can just line those up and know that we're lined up on the prostate fairly well. There's even one up here a little bit higher, so these calcifications will work really well for that. So that is our PTV 8100.